Hello and welcome to my talk on what is reality, and my name is Robert Good and I'm an artist based in Cambridge, UK, and for the Unreal Festival I wanted to explore ideas of reality, and I wanted to do this from both an artistic and a scientific point of view. Reality is obviously a massive topic and the universe is a huge place, so it's an enormous topic that I'm going to try and boil down into a few ideas for you to get you thinking. I say in my own work I like to use words, text and language to try and get to the bottom of things. I never quite manage to do it, but it's something that really intrigues me, so that's what I want to try and bring to the party today. So if we take a look at, let's start with something relatively straightforward. If we take a look at these three pictures, I think there's probably a sense in which the one on the left is kind of real life. It's what we would say is that's kind of real to us. The painting in the middle is a fantastic picture, obviously Van Gogh, but it's not what we'd call reality. And then on the one on the right, the Archimboldo, well, again, a lovely picture, fantastic picture, but I don't think anybody really believes that we're made out of stuff from the fruit and veg bowl. So I think we can probably say that there's a hierarchy between the pictures from left to right in terms of what is more real and what's less real in terms of these three pictures. But let's take a little bit of a closer look, shall we, at the Van Gogh and see how art approaches reality. Well, why isn't this real? Well, obviously it's wobbly, isn't it? It's too wobbly to be real. We know that in real life, backgrounds don't wobble like that, jackets don't wobble like that, and the skin is not really as portrayed. Likewise with the sunflowers. Fantastic picture, really evocative, but we can sense that they're not real, are they? Of course, artists can and do try and mimic reality, and there's a great Dutch tradition of flower paintings. This is by fantastically named Balthazar van der Art, and you can create pictures that get close to reality. And once we crack the idea of perspective, this is a Perugino, Christ handing the keys to St. Peter, we get a sense of depth to the picture as well. We put the two together and hey presto, we've got a picture that is looking really realistic. Even the arms are outstretched and the elbow is about to hit you in the eye on the left-hand side. So paintings can approach reality, and with photorealism, and such as this one by Richard Estes, they get even closer still. But of course there's a problem, isn't there? For whatever the artist tries to do, it's still a two-dimensional depiction of a three-dimensional reality. It's really only an imitation, and that was what Magritte was trying to tell us. And there's another problem as well. If we go back to the Perugino and we look at this picture, what does it remind you of? Well, it reminds me a little bit of the early computer simulations. It's not quite real, is it? It looks kind of almost real, but not quite there. A bit like these, they're kind of slightly odd and slightly sinister. The closer we approach reality, the more uncanny it looks. And that's a term that Freud used to talk about things when they were very close to being real, but not actually real. And the early robotics as well, the animatronics, they are kind of spooky. They're almost real, but that just makes it even worse. But now here's the thing, things are getting even more closer to reality. When we look at this lady here, we think, well, I'm sure that's probably real, but in fact, this is a computer simulation too. This person has never existed and probably never will do. These are all computer generated images of people who don't exist. And I defy you to kind of say which ones might or might not be real, because they all just look so real. So wouldn't it be great if we could have a way of telling what is real and what's not? Maybe if we could just put some glasses on and see what's really real. And that's what happened in the fantastic film called They Live. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you haven't, you really must do, because he picks up this pair of glasses and he puts them on and he sees the world as it really is. And what he finds is that the world is run by aliens from outer space who are shape-shifting into humans, but nobody can see it. I've got a pair of these glasses here, actually, to see. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, anyway, we don't know really that people are from outer space, and we know that that's not really the case. It's just a bit of fun. Or is it? There are people who really do believe that people are being controlled by reptiles from outer space. And this would just kind of be a little bit of a something that's a kind of an oddity, but it's really becoming quite serious, because conspiracy theorists such as David Icke really do believe that they are talking reality. And so he talks of himself as being a conspiracy realist. So for him, lizards are real. He looks like one himself a little bit, I think, which is kind of a little bit bizarre. But this is where it gets serious, because conspiracy theorists take us down into a road where things are getting very, very, they impact us. The vaccination conspiracy theories about them, they lead to huge problems. These are really big problems. Just last year, there was an outbreak of measles in Samoa because people started to disregard vaccination, believing it to be a hoax. So we need to get to the bottom of what is a shared reality. Climate change is another thing. We need to have science to get onto the case. And so this is where I need to start to think about reality from the point of view of the scientist, and to see how science can really tell us what is what. So we need to talk about reality from the scientific point of view. And for this, I need to put on my lab coat of reason and pick up my clipboard of truth, because I'm an artist. I'm not really a scientist. And I'll be honest, I'm not actually a doctor either. But I feel that if I can inhabit the mindset of the scientist, then I can get at least some way to grasping what's really going on in the world. So let's take another look at some of the things we've been talking about from a scientific point of view. Okay, so we take again the sunflowers that Van Gogh painted, and he called them sunflowers, which of course is the first mistake, because they're not sunflowers at all. They're Helianthum annuus. Scientists have to give everything a name in order to categorize it, in order to make sense of things, in order to differentiate one thing from another. And the methodology is to kind of break things down into smaller and smaller parts, so that we kind of get a sense of all the various constituent parts and how they fit together. And there's some fantastic language that comes out of the scientific world. I love language, and we're talking now in terms of stipules, bracts, spines, prickles, tendrils, glands and hairs. What wonderful language to describe these things. And as we drill down deeper and deeper, it just becomes more and more beautiful. These are chloroplasts, which are further down inside the plant. And then we get down to green algae, which are also fantastically beautiful things. And as we go deeper and deeper into the animal kingdom, we get to things like this. This is Geophrocapsa oceanica, a species of coccolithophorid. This species is an important Pleistocene biostratigraphic marker, which is fantastic, but I don't really know what it is, but I just know that it is a really amazing thing to be looking at, to be privileged to be looking at things like this as we go down. And as we go down deeper and deeper into the microscopic world, we finally come to atoms and electrons, and we can see a single atom here, a single strontium atom, the reflection that's being caused by a laser shining on it. So if we could stop here, if we could only stop here, I think I could get my head round this. I could get my head round atoms and electrons and protons and neutrons. That seems just about graspable as the kind of lowest common denominator for reality. But no, it keeps on going down deeper and deeper into the world of quantum mechanics. And this is where it gets really weird. And even Einstein found it almost impossible to believe. There's just too much about the quantum world that is literally weird. And if we look at the blackboard behind Stephen Hawking here, we can see just how complex this world of quantum mechanics is. And it's difficult for the layman to understand, but we don't need to be a quantum physicist to realise that things like black holes just boggle the mind. How can things just vanish into nothingness? There's a word for it, and it's called quantum weirdness. And weirdness is a technical term in the quantum physics world, and it relates to particles that can be miles apart, light years apart, thousands of light years apart, and yet they interact with us. They interact with each other as if they were linked together. And it's called quantum entanglement, and it just seems so bizarre. I quote you a little passage of what it's meant to be about. The so-called Epr Paradox, in which two subatomic particles, thousands of light years apart, can instantaneously respond to each other's motions. Scientists have observed this phenomenon, called entanglement, at the particle level, and in 2009 they managed to produce the effect with linked superconductors. So things seem to be happening at a distance in a quantumly weird way, and this may lead to things like science fiction coming true. There's no reason apparently why teleportation couldn't happen in future generations. If we can just live long enough, we might be able to be teleported round the universe. And then there are other questions that just simply boggle the mind. What is dark matter and dark energy? Why can we only see 5% of the universe? There's so much more that we just don't understand. And yet it keeps on getting more boggling. Do we live in a simulation? There are some people who think that we are effectively living in a computer simulation, that there are other universes that are bigger than ours and we're trapped inside a simulation of somebody else's reality. And are there multiple universes? There are just too many things that we really don't know. So if we think back to the universe and we think back to the size of the universe and just how mind-boggling it is, it's not surprising that people have tried to quantify it, to try and break it down into its components parts. This is Sir Arthur Eddington, and he was a scientist, a physicist, an astrophysicist in the early part of the last century, and he took it upon himself to calculate just how much stuff there was in the universe. And this is what he came up with. Well, I can't read that number, and I don't know that anybody else can. So what I thought I would try and do, get a little bit of help here as to how big this number is, how much stuff there is in the universe.
I believe there are 157,477,241,362,757,605,006,805,639,611,452,506,717,915,612,146,709,366,23,142,506,117,916 protons in the universe and the same number of electrons.
Isn't that fantastic? We've got an exact number of protons and electrons in the universe. Of course, we can't really be sure of that, can we? I don't think that people really think that that's exactly the right figure, but it gives an idea of just how mind-bogglingly vast it is. And when we look at Sir Arthur like this, there's something that is vaguely familiar. He's looking wobbly, isn't he? He's looking wobbly on the inside. He doesn't look wobbly on the outside. It's a photograph. But on the inside, he's looking just as wobbly as Van Gogh is. And I think the reason that he's looking so concerned is that when we look up at the universe, it is just so mind-boggling that it gives us a sense of existential confusion, a sense of smallness at our place in the world. And that's exactly what Van Gogh was trying to articulate in his work. And that is what artists can bring to the idea of reality. It's not so much that they're bringing an exact, quantifiable representation of reality, but they're talking about the inner lived state as well. So it's not just about the external objects, but it's also about the mind. And this is what Descartes was trying to work out. His take on reality was that I can't trust anything outside of myself. But if I go inside into my own mind, then maybe I can find what's really true. And he famously came up with his phrase at the end of his thought experiment, I think, therefore I am. But of course, the more we go into the mind, the more we go inside ourselves, the more difficult it becomes, the more surreal it becomes, the more dreamlike it becomes, and the more logically incoherent our own internal workings are. We can't necessarily rely on our brains, on our minds to construct reality either. And if you want an example of that, you only got to look at optical illusions. The black dots that we can see here are all constructs from our brains. They don't actually exist in the drawing, but we put them there. This is the brain at work, the brain trying to construct reality for us from the information that it is getting. So maybe reality is actually a construct of our brains. And this is a big problem because it means that we're limited in what we can know about reality to what we've got in our brains. There may be other realities, but we can't access them because our brains haven't evolved to allow us to see other realities as well. Things just become more and more difficult to grasp. And if that wasn't enough, why is there something rather than nothing? Okay, there are just too many questions for me to really answer, and this is why I think that reality is such a difficult problem. When we look at the pictures again, we see that the one on the left isn't actually real. We see that the Van Gogh is a combination of both his external and his internal states of mind, and we see that the one on the right is actually a state of the surreal nature of the universe. Reality is just too unbelievable, and this is what Arcimboldo is trying to tell us. The absurdity, the surreal nature of the universe. So at this point it's time for me to hang up my clipboard of truth and my lab coat of reason, take off my gloves, put back my hat and re-enter the world of art and leave the science behind. So we need to leave the scientists to get on with their work and to continue to explore on our behalf and to find out what is real. It's science that gets planes into the air, and it's science that is going to help us in our quest to make the planet a little bit greener. And it's science that is managing to get us into space and to look at the marvels of the universe. And I'll stick to being an artist for now so that I can enjoy and comment on and marvel at the realities and the wonders of the world around us. So thank you very much indeed for attending this talk. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that I've helped to shed a little light on what is real and what is not, but most importantly to realise that everything really is stranger than we could ever believe. Thank you very much.